We're going to tell you about a very effective training method. It's so simple, we're going to do it in 5 minutes or less. That's the challenge today, Trevor. Tell us about polarized training.
Well, here it is in 10 seconds. 80% of your time, you're training super easy. 20% of your time, you're training super hard.
That's it. But let's give a little more context.
Yeah. So this whole concept was introduced by Dr. Steven Seiler, but he'll be the first to tell you he didn't invent this, he discovered this. He was watching elite endurance athletes and how they trained and was surprised himself to see they were really sparing in their high intensity.
Mm-hmm.
They were spending most of their time going surprisingly easy, and he wanted to figure out why. And out of that discovery, he mapped out what this polarized training model looks like, but it was based on what the best of the best were doing.
I think to conceptualize it, it's really easy to think of it as a 3-zone model.
Right.
You've got a green zone. That's the zone 1. That's the bulk of what you want to be doing. Then there's, call it a yellow zone, right in the middle. Kind of yellow, caution, avoid this. And then there's red. That's tongue hanging out interval sessions, use sparingly. That's the way to conceptualize it. And to be clear, zone 2 here is in the middle. It's kind of no man's land. It's very different from the popular zone 2 training you've heard about, probably right here on YouTube. That's zone 2 in a 5-zone model, or
which would
otherwise,
still be part of your zone 1 on a 3-zone model.
Correct. So you've got these 3 zones, and they're actually defined by physiological thresholds.
Yes, there is actual physiology behind this. So we have 2 thresholds. One you're pretty familiar with. Everybody refers to it as your anaerobic threshold. Think you're going out and doing a 20-plus minute time trial. That time trial is going to be done right around your anaerobic threshold. If you're doing just 20 minutes, maybe a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of as hard as you can go while still being mostly aerobic.
Yes.
The other threshold, your aerobic threshold, and other names for this, that would be VT1. Your anaerobic threshold would be VT2.
Correct.
That's what they use in the literature. That aerobic threshold is much harder to determine. But it's, if you were doing a ramp test and we were taking your lactates, for a while your blood lactate would be sitting about 1 millimole. And there's a certain point where it kicks up to around 2, and that would be that VT1 or that aerobic threshold. Aren't a lot of other good ways to figure it out. So unfortunately, I have to go into a lab. Otherwise, it's just feel. But that aerobic threshold is the top end of what you would think of as zone 2 training.
In a 5-zone model.
In a 5-zone model. Top end of zone 1 on a 3-zone model.
Right.
What's really important here is there is evidence that there's kind of a switch that's flipped in your body when you go from zone 1 to zone 2 on that 3-zone model, where you start seeing a lot of what's called autonomic stress. So once you're in zone 2, you are producing fatigue that's going to take you a while to recover from. And too much autonomic stress, and we'll get to this in a minute, can start pushing you to overtraining. That's why you have to be careful about how much time you spend even over that VT1 or aerobic threshold.
Right. So to go back to the red, green, yellow concept, I've stolen that from Dr. Seiler. That's how the man who discovered this, the world-renowned physiologist who sort of discovered this training method, conceptualizes it himself. This is how he trains. This is how he talks about it. Red being tongue hanging out, green being where you want to be able to talk, able to spin.
Enjoying the ride.
And yellow, stay away, basically. And that's what it comes down to. Super simple.
Yellow is hard, but not really hard.
Yeah.
It's, I hate to tell you, it's some ways that kind of feel good intensity, because you feel like you're doing something.
Yeah.
But you're not going really hard. It's not producing great adaptations. And more importantly, it is producing that autonomic stress. So what you're doing is pushing yourself towards overtraining without getting a lot of the benefits.
That's right.
And then the other bit of science that's important to understand and why it's so little high intensity is they've done a lot of research studies on this of how much high intensity can we handle. And they looked at it in terms of weeks. Dr. Seiler talks in terms of 10 days, but most of the studies were looking in terms of a week, and said, you generally saw more benefits from 2 high-intensity sessions per week versus 1 high-intensity session. You didn't see any additional gains from 3 sessions per week, but you started to see the athlete get fatigued really quickly. And if you started doing 4 more high-intensity sessions per week, you were pushing yourself towards overtraining really fast. So basically what the research shows is at most 2 high-intensity sessions per week.
That's right. Keep it simple. That's what we do. We're big proponents of the polarized method. Has it worked for you? Let us know in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.